last time I did a video about the GoPro Hero 12, it was about unpacking it, setting it up, and my initial thoughts on this camera. Now, I did make a few jokes about, oh, when it's at 11, it's not a 12, and you know, it was kind of funny. But, you know, I'm going to stay away from making those jokes during this video. Or at least that's what I would be saying if this wasn't a GoPro Hero 11. Here's the GoPro Hero 12. But the point is, you know, and I'm going to give my honest thoughts about this camera in this review and whether or not it's worth buying this. So this is after using it since I purchased it, since the 13th, and what my thoughts are of this camera up until now. So stay tuned, because these are my honest thoughts on the GoPro Hero 12. And yes, this is the 12. Hi there, welcome back to the channel. I do appreciate you tuning in, and in this video we're going to be looking at the GoPro Hero 12 and whether or not this camera is worth buying. Now, this review is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to put up a whole ton of comparison reviews because you've already seen that online. Me showing you footage in slightly different weather conditions, it's not going to matter a whole lot to you. So I'm going to just tell you, as well as some brief comparison footage, but I'm just going to tell you what my thoughts are on this camera and whether or not it's worth buying. So stick around for that, and if you like this video, if you like this channel, make sure you're clicking those like and subscribe buttons. Don't be a heartless monster who makes puppies cry in the rain. Click the like and subscribe buttons and show some support for this channel. Okay, so on with the review, and I'm just going to briefly touch on the subject of the new max lens mod for the GoPro Hero 12, which is basically a wider field of view than the Max Lens Mod 1. The Max Lens Mod 2.0 for the GoPro Hero 12 has got 177 degree field of view, I believe, and it shoots in 4K up to 60 frames per second. And I'm going to show you some comparison footage on that, how it looks, because that's something in my mind that you need to know. So check out this footage. So here we are with the Max Lens Mod 1 on the GoPro Hero 11. And one thing I really do like about the Max Lens mod is that the wider field of view does kind of give you a much faster sense of speed. Now, I'm actually going very, very slowly. I'm going under the speed limit on this road, but because of that wider angle, you just get this kind of sense of speed because the edges are actually moving faster than the center of the image. And yeah, I really do like that mounting position. Now, the GoPro Hero 11 with the Max Lens Mod 1 and the GoPro Hero 12 with Max Lens Mod 2 were mounted side by side, so the footage is pretty much the same. But as you can see, this is a slightly lower quality picture because the maximum resolution you can get from the Max Lens Mod 1 is 2.7K. But still, it's not a bad image. I mean, if you actually look at the quality of it, I think it's pretty good. Now, it does seem a bit paler, and the reason this seems pale is that I am shooting in the natural mode. I'm not using vibrant, I'm not using flat. This is just natural color, the way GoPro wants it to look out of the camera. Now we have the Max Lens Mod 2.0 in the same settings. Now, as you can see, much more of the edges of the car are in the shot, so you know, you would have to crop in a little bit to get those edges out of there, but because the Max Lens Mod 2.0 records in 4K, that's not going to be a problem. You're going to have the resolution to do that. But you'll also notice that colors are a lot more vibrant, even though this was also shot in the natural color profile. So GoPro really have made some adjustments to that profile. The saturation is a little bit more, but without being as overly saturated as the vibrant color. Now, here we are passing along on Highway 30, and as you can see, the colors of the truck seem to pop out a bit more. The blacks are not as crushed, and look at that sky. You can actually make out a lot more definition and color in that sky, even though HDR is not activated, because you can't activate HDR with the Lens Mod 2.0. Or if you can, I haven't found a way to do it. It just doesn't appear as a selectable option when you're filming this way. But yeah, that gives a much better, higher definition image. And the wider field of view, once that's cropped in, is going to look really, really good in my opinion. This is a GoPro Max Lens Mod 1.0 on the GoPro Hero 11. Now, this is not about image quality. There's going to be different lighting conditions happening as I swap cameras about. But this is more about field of view. This is the 2.7K 60 frames per second super view on the GoPro Hero 11 using the Max Lens Mod 1.0. But what's going to happen here is I'm going to get down to the end of this road. I'm going to switch to the GoPro Hero 12 using the Max Lens Mod 2.0. Now, I have these cameras set up so they're using the same angle, etc. But remember, it's not about image quality on this because we're not using HDR or anything like that. This test is solely about field of view, and that's all. And this is using the Max Lens Mod 2.0 on the GoPro Hero 12, and this is at 4K widescreen, 60 frames per second. And as you can see, the field of view is incredibly large. And the whole point of this test, like I said, it's not about image quality. This test is solely about field of view. So the main question you have to ask yourself now is, did you prefer the field of view using the GoPro Max Lens Mod 1, or do you prefer this wider field of view when doing a motor vlog with the Max Lens Mod 2.0? So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of these short little tests, and if you're wondering why I'm not using the Max Hyperview, I have no interest in having that full image being squashed down and just looking terrible and distorted, which is what will happen if you do that. Because this isn't about speed, this is trying to get a wide field of view while doing a normal vlog. As you saw with the Max Lens Mod 2.0, it does have a much wider field of view, and yeah, I do like that. But I'm going to save my opinions kind of for the end of this, because the other thing I want you to look at now is some HDR footage compared to non-HDR footage on the GoPro Hero 11. So let's check that out. Okay, so here we are, just driving down this road, and as you can see, the colors are indeed kind of paler looking and generally washed out. Now this is again the natural color profile, and as you can see, it's not oversaturated. The blacks are kind of crushed, and that's what happens when you use the natural color profile. This here is the GoPro Hero 12, and this is using HDR. Now the colors are popping a lot more. It's almost like the vibrant setting on GoPro, and the blacks are still kind of crushed, but it is a far more pleasing picture, and I would say it's more akin to what the weather was like that day and what the light was like. Here we are going along Highway 30, and we're coming up to St. John's Bridge, and you can see it's kind of a grayish washed out look. And yeah, it really is not oversaturated, but I still think it's paler than what it really did look like that day. Whereas if we use the Hero 12 in HDR, we're going to see the colors are popping a lot more, and we're not kind of getting that whole underexposed area in the dark areas. Yes, the blacks are still there and kind of crushed, but you can see it's much better displayed. And there's not a lot going on with the sky just because of that constant blue. I mean, if we look there in the top right hand corner, we can see that there is some faint clouds present, but the whole thing just kind of looks a bit bleak. If you were to color grade this, sure, you could do some stuff, but with those crushed blacks in the natural color profile, it's just not really ideal that you would shoot that way, or at least not in these type of conditions. Now if we go back to the Hero 12, the colors are a lot more pleasing. Even though the blacks are still crushed, like I said, the exposures seem to be a lot better using the HDR. And this is, like I said, more akin to what it was actually looking like that day. So yeah, the HDR does make a heck of a lot of difference in this scenario. Now I could delve into the whole LOG thing as well, and that's just going to give you a much flatter color for post-processing and everything, but I don't think it's a fair comparison footage to give, because post-processing is all about how you want that footage to look. So I could make some like lovely color graded footage, but it would be completely different from somebody else who color grades their footage. They might go for a different style or anything. And you can pretty much do that on the GoPro Hero 11 if you use the flat color profile, the wide color gamut, and set your LOG manually on this, which you kind of can. So yeah, I'm not going to get into the whole LOG thing because that's more about professional creation use. This video review are going to be my thoughts for the everyday user, the people who are just kind of using them as point and shoot, or using them for vlogging or car vlogging, and might not necessarily spend days or weeks color grading their footage afterwards to make some hugely cinematic masterpiece. So here's the nitty gritty. What are my thoughts on the GoPro Hero 12, and is it worth buying? Well, first off, I think GoPro deserve a congratulations. A congratulations for making a camera that's damn near impossible to review. I mean, the way I feel right now is I want to love this camera. I really do, but it's hard to do. Here is the basic truth. The GoPro Hero 12 feels like a GoPro Hero 11 with a firmware update, and that's kind of what it really is. I mean, they put some blue speckles on the front of it so you can tell the difference. And that's about it. It's got the same sensor size and same sensor shape as the GoPro Hero 11. So when they brought out the Max Lens Mod 2.0, it kind of makes you think, well, they could have made that compatible with the Hero 11 with a firmware upgrade. It's got Bluetooth audio, but you know, I've touched upon the Bluetooth audio in my tests, and I wouldn't say it's usable. You can use it in a pinch if you wanted to kind of like do a 20-second segment with Bluetooth audio. That's absolutely fine. You wouldn't make an entire video using Bluetooth audio, that's for sure. So honestly, can I recommend the GoPro Hero 12? It's really, really hard. Okay, here's what I'll say. If you have the GoPro Hero 9, GoPro Hero 8, GoPro Hero 7, or any earlier camera and you're looking to upgrade, yes, go for the GoPro Hero 12. It's a great camera. I mean, the only thing about this camera that I don't like is it doesn't have GPS built in. A lot of people are going to say that. For me, as you know, I make some aviation videos, and having the GPS was, you know, a good idea. Now, the reason GoPro say they didn't include GPS with the Hero 12 was pretty much the same reason. You know, very few of their users were actually uploading videos with GPS. They weren't using it that much. And I said this to GoPro, I said it to them directly, and of course there was no response. But if you have a restaurant with 100 customers and only 3 of those customers are using forks, then obviously don't bother with forks because it's such a small percentage. But if you have a restaurant that only had 3 forks to begin with, that explains why the customer weren't using so many forks. In which case, your thinking about not supplying forks was completely inaccurate. And I feel that's the same way with the removal of GPS. If you remember the old version of the GoPro app, you could drag and drop the limited GPS stickers anywhere you wanted. You could actually expand them or resize them, make them small or big. With the latest version of the GoPro app and some previous versions, you could lodge a limited number of stickers in each corner of the screen, and that was it. That was the only support GoPro gave to GPS. So it wasn't that people didn't want to use GPS, it's that they couldn't because GoPro didn't provide enough support for it. You know, if GoPro had lent support to it, people would have used GPS, but because they didn't lend support for it, they just decided, well, less people are using it, so we're going to remove it. And that's the whole problem. Since this camera feels like a firmware update to the Hero 11 minus the GPS, people are kind of annoyed. I mean, you could have launched a firmware update for the Hero 11 that did a lot of the features that the Hero 12 could do. So the only way you're going to feel good about getting the Hero 12 is if you have a Hero 9 or earlier and you want to upgrade, then yes, I wholly recommend the Hero 12. 3 things that I like. Okay, the Bluetooth audio, it's the way to go. And as soon as there's better microphones or headsets out there that allow you to disable that onboard wind reduction or noise reduction, then I think, yeah, you could get usable audio from these, but we have to wait and see. Then there's the Max Lens Mod 2.0. Yes, I absolutely love that wider field of view, and I love the higher resolution. That's absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't say it's the main selling point of the Hero 12, but it's pretty good. And then finally, there's the HDR. And even I have to admit that HDR does look good. I've done shots before where I've been driving along even cloudy, overcast conditions, and that sky just seems white. If I darken it to get the distinction of the clouds in there, then the foreground looks too dark. And that's even using the flat color profile. But with HDR, I get that definition in the clouds while the foreground remains bright. And overall, it's a more pleasing picture. So yeah, HDR does make a difference. However, let's get on to the things I don't like. Number 1, I don't like the fact that they removed the GPS. That was an excellent thing to have in the camera. It was one thing I loved about the GoPros. Then there's the fact that if I use the Max Lens 2.0, I can't have HDR turned on. What's the point? I mean, when you have that, especially for me, if I do motovlogs on the road, I have that thing mounted inside the car. I've got that wider field of view that I like, but outside it's completely overblown because HDR is not enabled. Now, I realize that could add more stress to the camera, but, you know, make it an option for people to select. Make that a firmware update. I know GoPro do have some firmware updates coming, so I would love to see that feature enabled for the Max Lens Mod 2.0. And then the third thing I don't like, which is completely natural, which is what everybody has complained about, and that is it just feels like this is a Hero 11 with a firmware upgrade. Hardware-wise, all they did was remove the GPS module as far as I know. And it's just hard to justify upgrading from the Hero 11 to the Hero 12. It really is. I mean, it just feels like a firmware upgrade. I just can't stress that enough. So yeah, if you have the Hero 10, maybe it's worth upgrading. I mean, I have the Hero 10, I upgraded to the Hero 11, and the reason I upgraded to the Hero 11 is because the selling point for me was those built-in night effect shots. The Hero 12 has the exact same built-in night effect shots, but now they're compatible with the Max Lens 2.0. The only problem with that is, sure, you get that wider field of view, but it's limited to 4K, whereas the night effect shots without using it is 5.3K. So wider field of view with a lower resolution, it's a confusing thing to kind of choose between, you know? At the end of the day, should you buy the GoPro Hero 12? Like I said, if you have a GoPro Hero 9 or earlier, then yes, absolutely, it is worth the upgrade. I would actually, yeah, recommend it. If you have a Hero 10 or Hero 11, it's much harder to recommend this camera as an upgrade, especially if you have a Hero 11. If you have a Hero 11 and you need a second camera, by all means get the GoPro Hero 12. But if you're looking for a revolutionary update, something that's going to make you really go wow, I don't think this brings enough to the table. Now, we will see what happens with the GoPro Hero 12 in the forthcoming months, whether or not they'll actually release any firmware updates that make you say, okay, now this is really a camera to recommend. But right now, it's very, very hard to do. So, yeah, congratulations, GoPro. You've made a camera that is actually quite good, but really hard to justify to people to upgrade. So, sorry if this is a disappointing review, people, but it's the truth, and it's the truth that you need to know. If you have a Hero 9 or earlier, upgrade. If you're getting a GoPro for the very first time, then yes, absolutely, the GoPro Hero 12 is the one to go for. But if you own a 10 or 11, it's kind of hard to justify it. So on that note, cheerio. Hey, you stuck around after the credits, well done. Just remember that DemonView giveaway contest is coming to a close. You have about, 6 days left to enter it. So make sure that you do that, and make sure that you pay attention to the weather, because it's 59 degrees outside at the moment. Don't you just love these little bits down the bottom? Anyway, folks, make sure you enter that competition. You're winning a free camera and some DemonView goodies. Who wouldn't want to win that for the minimum, amount of effort? I've seen some of the entries so far, and I'm actually pretty impressed. So folks, enter the giveaway. You're winning free stuff, so go for it. Until next time, cheerio.